Maybe you don't need a guide to assessment. Humans have always been good assessor. It was a question of surviving. Eat or be eaten. Food or danger. Good or bad. We still assess our surroundings. But assessing the performance of your students, even assessing what's going on in their heads, that is a different story. In this video, we'll take a look at formative and summative assessment, at feedback to students, and we will end with some handy hints to make online quizzes. Here we see the model from the textbook again. The learning activities are given more value when they are assessed and commented. The students get feedback on their endeavors and their learning process from the teachers, from other students, from robots, or even from themselves. In online courses, so much learning activity is recorded, which is great for assessment of, for, and as learning. Formative assessment is an assessment that supports the student's learning process. In The Power of Feedback, John Hattie and Helen Timperley divide the supportive assessment into three. Feed up, a clarification of the goal. Students must be given knowledge of what the goal is and what is expected of them. Feedback, on how the students stands in relation to the goal or what the student have achieved so far. Feed forward, information about what the student needs to do to achieve the goal. Teachers continuously assess their students and give them hints on how to improve. Sometimes they encourage effort and learning outside the curriculum, to build up the esteem of students and to teach them how they can learn. Even in online courses, teachers use smileys and comments to informally encourage the students. Sometimes the assessment is part of a more holistic or 360 degrees approach to assessment. The portfolio method is especially suited for longer online study programs. The portfolio can be a part of a formative and summative, an ongoing and a final assessment. We just said that formative assessment is an assessment that supports the students in their learning. Doesn't summative assessment do that? Of course it may. But while formative assessment can link all student activity to any kind of learning, summative assessment aims to document if and to what degree the students have achieved the intended learning outcomes. It is usually more specific. Summative assessment could be numeric, like a grade or a score. For larger bodies of students, online quizzes are very useful as they can score, grade, even guide and feedback the results to both teachers and student immediately. Rubric assessment is a tidy way of assessing students' work where there is written text, oral presentation, video, or even athletic performance or an art project. Both rubric and quiz can still provide the student with important information on their own learning and are great for online courses. Assessing the student's learning, the teacher receives valuable information on their own tuition. Did a surprisingly large number of students get the same questions in a quiz wrong? Or fail the same task? That might suggest that a specific topic was not taught in an effective manner. Are the students expressing themselves clearly, using their own words to accurately explain topics and processes and answering questions? That is a signal that they have developed the intended understanding and knowledge. Online assignments ease the task of comparing students' answers. You can also ask the students directly how the tuition is working for them, and that way sometimes even discover hidden learning outcomes that the quiz or task didn't reveal. In online courses, the discussion forum could be a good tool for these structured but informal questions. Multiple choice quizzes are sometimes avoided by teachers because we think they are of low educational value. But what if you can improve learning and be more effective with the use of online quizzes? Answering good questions and getting immediate response can increase students' learning, and autocorrect frees up teacher time, which can be used for more personalized student guiding. If you have an LMS, you probably have a quiz tool with a lot of advanced features. Training videos from the LMS provider and from other teachers, often to be found on YouTube, are good helpers for aspiring quizmasters. But here are a few starting tips. If there is to be one right question, make sure all of the alternatives, distractors, are really wrong. If you ask, why can fungus live underground? Both because it hasn't got any photosynthesis and because it doesn't need sunlight would be correct answers, although one might be a better explanation than the other. In online tests, you can easily use videos, which can provide a good basis for analytical questions. Which is not right questions will not tell you if the student in fact knows what the right answer is, and eager students might miss the negative. Make sure none of the terms can mean more than one thing if the other meaning can confuse the students. And silly distractors can be fun, but add no extra value to the tests. Even multiple choice questions can reveal complex knowledge if the students must analyze a complex meaning to select the correct alternative. Asking why a phenomenon occurs or something happens, or how something occurs or is connected to something else, can reveal deeper understanding or misunderstanding when the alternatives are clear. We know teachers have good intentions, but sometimes we can all get so carried away with the task of creating ingenious questions and answers that we accidentally set traps with using similar terms or too clever grammar. Creating good multiple choice questions requires some practice, but it can be well worth the effort and good fun too. And your online quiz tool probably has a setting for randomizing the order of the alternative answers so you don't have to. Also, most test tools will let you mix and match questions from previous tests and maybe even share with other teachers, making quiz creation easier and easier. Again, to make a test that students can learn from, help them to reveal their knowledge and don't set traps for them. Most online quiz tools have a variety of question types, even for multiple choice, like radio buttons, drag and drop, connect the equals, yes and no, and, you guessed it, multiple choice. Mixing them within one quiz tests the student's ability to decode the quiz when you want to assess the actual topic, and it will leave the reason for any wrong answers a bit foggy. Most quiz tools have an optional timer. Reasons for timing could be assessing if students can perform simple arithmetic procedures without using calculator or similar, but timers can be a stressing element that lowers performance. Some quizzes have a natural narrative or logic progression, and there is no reason to alter it just to confuse the students. Use the quiz tool's feedback options and design helpful hints on the distractors to help the students see why they are wrong and what would be the right way of thinking. The hints are set to be visible only after the student submits the quiz. Let them do the test again as many times as it takes. It can also be a good idea to feedback on the right answer. Could be the student was just lucky guessing. Take the quiz yourself, then have someone else, ideally an older student, take the test to weed out errors in grammar, scoring, etc. Speaking of scoring, quizzes could be set to give a final score or grade. This is useful in the summative assessment process. If the quiz contains question buttons where the students can select multiple alternatives and the tool hasn't got the restriction feature, use negative scoring on the wrong alternatives, distractors, to avoid students ticking all the boxes and thereby getting full score. But, in general, negative scores can be very demotivating and should probably be avoided. If there are more than one correct answer, we can score the correct alternatives differently. In our first example with "Why can fungus live underground?", the alternative "Because it hasn't got any photosynthesis" could receive a higher score than "Because it doesn't need sunlight", because it represents a more accurate explanation. As mentioned, you can provide the students with helpful hints and let them do the test until they have understood the material. You can also give them a test at the start of the topic and then again at the end. Improvement can in itself be a motivating factor for the student. In an online course, there is often less informal interaction between student and teacher, and positive feedback, even from an algorithm on the computer, could be the friendly nudge a student needs to continue the work of learning.